medicine, for everything. Like the richness of the language that describes the plants, they're all associated with the most common flowers, which are the weeds. Like it's the dandelions, it's your ribwort plantain, it's the nettles. Those are the things that really get me excited. Even though they're not rare, they mightn't be the most beautiful to look at. They're the richest in folklore. And that's what I love to delve into and to hear people's stories and to spread the joy of the nettles.
And where did that come from? The whole wildflowers, nature interest.
So I suppose it definitely is very much, again, for me, rooted in the Irish language. Like, because I learned all my Irish, there came a point where I was in Kerry one day with my granny, and she has an interest in wildflowers as well. So it would have been something that we would do when we go on holidays to Ballybunion and Kerry, that we'd go on this little walk down to the coast, to the Cashin River, and we'd look and see all the wildflowers we could see on that walk, and we'd come home and we'd look them up in the wildflower book and see if we could identify them. But one summer, like I was 20 definitely when this happened, but I opened the wildflower book, and it was the first time that I would have looked at that book that I could understand the Irish name. So for instance, one of the flowers that I love is it's called Lesser Century, which is a very boring name in English and tells you nothing. It's a fabulous little pink flower that grows in wastelands. But in Irish, it's called Dréimhre Wide, which means Holy Mary's Ladder. Wow. And I was like, oh my God, what's this like? And even things like the fuchsia is a really quintessential Irish flower. It's called Deora Day, which means God's tears. And I was like, hold the phone. What is going on here? Like, where are these stories coming from? So it just became a hobby, became a total fascination. I was buying every book I could get my hand on and just trying to learn every new flower that I came across. And I don't know, maybe it's just because I'm such a visual learner. Because the flowers are so beautiful and so colourful, the information that I was learning about them just completely stuck in my head. And from then I began to share it online. And then I got into television, making nature programs and things. So it's just been snowballing ever since.
Yeah, but the Irish language is obviously like that, as you say, because the way, I don't speak it. I grew up abroad. But I know the way we speak English is very flowery compared to the way other people speak English. We always say, would you mind? Would you do? We're always very flowery. Whereas Germans say, would you do it now?
Perhaps, yeah, there's a lot to be learned from the Hiberno English. But for me, looking at the Irish names of the flowers again, it's very, very important because the English names are lovely, and even we have special nicknames in Ireland as well that are in the Hiberno English tradition, and they're so valuable. But really, our Irish names, those are the names for these plants that have existed since the beginning of the language. This is connecting us with our way, so long ago. So when you look at the Irish name, you're not just looking at a name, you're delving into our cultural heritage, and we're understanding how people viewed the world around them by looking at these plants and seeing what was important to them. And in terms of the kind of anti-colonial mindset, we use these English words and they do have a place in our culture now. But if we want to reconnect with the true Irish heritage going way, way, way back, we need to go and dig deeper into the roots of those names. So I just love that connection, and I love that it has survived through till the current day. And it's still there. The stories are still to be found. The traditions are still in the oral tradition. And kids are still playing the same games with the flowers going back thousands of years, which I think is the most fantastic connection. And I love to share it and to try to keep those traditions alive.
Yeah, fascinating. And Irishness is important to you?
Massively important to me, yeah. I suppose, is it the chicken or the egg? All of my work that I do, all of my hobbies now are very much sort of associated with Irish or Irishness in one form or another. So it's definitely important to me and brings a lot of richness to my life.
And is there an Iron Islands kind of culture or different way of seeing things within the Irishness or not?
Oh, for sure there would be and I suppose, well, the Iron Islands are very different from everywhere. All the offshore islands of Ireland are fascinating places and so rich in culture. But I don't have as much experience now in the other islands, places like Tory and things like that. They're a world unto themselves. But even the three Aran Islands, people group them together the whole time. And like people come out here to me sometimes for Irish courses and that, and I'll say, "Oh, have you been to Inishmael before?" And they'll say, "Oh, I don't know." And I'm like, "What do you mean? What do you mean you don't know?" And they'll say, "Well, I came to the Aran Islands on a school trip, but I don't know which island I was on." And like, it's such an injustice in a way to club them all together like that, because they're completely unique from each other. Travel between the islands wasn't that easy until very recently. So, the islanders might only get to go between the three in very good weather when they were able to go over in the Currachs in the summer and that. But for a massive portion of the year, they were very isolated, and because of that, developing their own traditions. And in Inishmael especially, it was the most difficult island to get to logistically, because the pier here, it was always more difficult to get into. There's not a lot of shelter. Like, we didn't have a new pier here that could take, even in the 70s and 80s, anyone that came to Inishmael, they were coming in currachs, like off of the steamboat. Where like, people don't realise how new the new technology and things are in Inishmael. They didn't even get electricity till like 75 or something.
Yeah.
Running water, there was no running water here in 73. Like, modernity is very modern in Inishmael, and so it's natural that they have their own worldview, that they're particularly independent, resourceful, and proud people.
And is there a different ethos or thought process between the three islands? You don't get defensive about your island, or is there subtleties there is what I'm looking for?
I think so. Yeah. I think anyone who has experiences in the islands will notice subtle differences. And I suppose someone who'd be a native of the islands would be more suited to answer that question. So I don't want to say too much in case I get myself in trouble.
No, but what happens is we, as you say, we on the mainland just call them the Aran Islands. We think they're all the same, and we don't really realise how different they are, each one of them, or the people may view them. That's all I'm thinking of. So I was wondering, even though you're blowing, inverted commas, you know more than us about it. So it's fascinating to hear that way. And have you lived abroad, or you've always lived in Ireland?
I have always lived in Ireland. I did live in the Netherlands for just 3 months. And I lived in Scotland, actually. I lived in the Isle of Skye for 4 months as well, for my Erasmus in the Scottish Highlands. That was my first island experience, even though it doesn't really count because the Isle of Skye is connected by a bridge, sort of like Achill, but I'll take it.
And how was that different in terms of the way they view their life as islanders?
Well, again, I couldn't really say, because as I was on my Erasmus, and we were living, myself and my friend, we went over to a fantastic institution called Salmore Rustic, where they do immersive education in Gaelic na Halapan, which is Scots Gaelic. Yeah. So we went over there in an exchange. But because of that, we were surrounded by other students, and like that, the Isle of Skye, we were kind of in the college the whole time. We were in a little world of our own. We did get to go out on trips and things like that. And some of our classmates were from the islands, who were from, the real Hebrides, and they would have had a very different existence. But sure, we were like 19. We weren't getting into the cultural nitty gritty. I'd love to talk to them now about it. But at the time, we were like, how do we get to the pub on Thursday night?
Thursday? What about Friday? Oh my God, what a life. In terms of resilience, the word resilience, does that resonate with you?
I think so, especially in the last few years, like in terms of being on the island, you do need to be resilient. You do need to be prepared. You need to be able to think on your feet. You need to be able to cobble dinner together with something from the freezer when there's absolutely nothing and the boat can't get in. You're shopping for super value. And then just, I suppose, in terms of getting older as well, like I'm 29 now, I just had a birthday, but I'm telling stories now from when I was in college, and I'm shocked because it's like a decade ago. So even in that short decade, I do definitely feel a change in my worldview, and resilience has been a big part of that.
And is it tougher on the island than it was in Galway, or were you a member of Enniscorthy? Do people look at it differently? Self-sufficiency and resilience go together? I
think so, definitely. Well, in my experience, there's an independence.
Irish people, we have a narrative about ourselves as a culture and a people, and we're tough and resilient. But obviously, when you get to the island, it's a different form again of resilience.
Well, in a way, I mean that's definitely true, and you do need to be tough, like in a way, but also here, in a way, for me, I'm actually less independent and more independent. I'm more independent because I made the